All right, good morning, and welcome to our first in a series of Leadership Summit meetings. Mrs. Gretzka has came to me beginning of the summer, I believe, and she shared with me her vision of exactly what she would like to do by putting together this series of having several people that are very respected and very much leaders in our community come in and talk to us. And she has a friend of Northport back again, and she'll be introducing Representative Harrell again a little bit. But I'm going to bring up Mrs. Gretzka. Mrs. Gretzka's worked hard, and this is our very first summit meeting. So welcome, Mrs. Gretzka. Yay!
Good morning, boys and girls. Good morning, teachers. I would like to thank all the teachers, for the sixth grade Sharks teachers, for bringing their students to our very first Leadership Summit. Now, the Leadership Summit started off as a leadership roundtable. I was just going to have a few selected children that were interested in leadership come to the media center and talk to community leaders. Because if you look in different areas of this media center, we really revere our community leaders. They're our role models. They're our next role models after our moms and dads. So we have to look to those people to help us guide our lives. It's the way government goes. So we're going to be meeting community leaders at our Leadership Summit. Now, this is the very first one, so I said, let's get somebody that's really, really awesome for you guys to really listen to and ask questions. Now, the format is going to be student-driven, okay? We have 13 students that are going to ask 13 questions of Representative Harrell. And you guys will drive the format of the program because it's all about you. All right? Now, if you really like this format and you really think that it was an awesome thing for you, the next Leadership Summit is going to be October 24th, once a month. So maybe your teachers might select some of you that have shown a real interest in leadership to come to that one. That person will be Nick Mims, the deputy city manager of Fort Pierce. So we have all kinds of speakers planned. Part of this is in working with Karen Sweeney. Karen Sweeney's a friend of mine, and Karen Sweeney is Representative Harrell's district aide. She works hand in hand with her and helps her and does all the work that Representative Sweeney needs. She got me hooked up with Linda Cox, who is the city manager's executive assistant in Fort Pierce. And she gave me lots of tips on holding roundtables and holding leadership summits. So this should be pretty interesting for you guys, okay? So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce District 83, Florida State Representative Gail Harrell to Northport.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. And I can't tell you how wonderful it is to be here. I have 4 grandchildren who are actually, our oldest is in 7th grade now, which I can't believe he's that old, down to 4 years old, so from 12 to 4. And I have 4 kids of my own who are now all grown up and have all these wonderful grandkids. So being part of what you're doing here, helping children, helping kids really grow up and become leaders and become part of their community is very, very important to me. So when I was asked to do this, I said, absolutely. I would love to be here. I would love to talk to the kids, and especially when it is really driven by the kids themselves and your questions. So I know there's a bunch of questions that you want to ask me, but let me tell you before we get started just a little bit about me so that might help you with some of the questions you might want to ask. First of all, I was born in Nashville, Tennessee. Anybody here from Tennessee? Anybody born in Tennessee? We have one. Terrific. 2. Wonderful. Has anybody been to Tennessee? Okay. All right. Now, I'm kind of an oldie goldie. I'm very ancient. And I was born during World War II. And my dad was in the Air Force. My dad spent many, many years in the Air Force serving our country. How many of you have someone in your family who is serving their country right now? When you go home, you write them a letter or you call them up and you say, thank you for your service. It is very important. They are protecting us. So my dad was in the Air Force, and he was stationed in Tennessee, in Nashville, Tennessee. And so I was born there, but I never really remembered it. I left when I was a year old or 2 years old, and then lived lots of different places in the country as my dad was in the Air Force and moved around. Well, then when I was in middle school, just like you, my dad and my whole family, he retired and we moved to Sarasota. So I started going to middle school in Sarasota. And I graduated from Riverview High School in Sarasota and then went to the University of Florida. And I'm a dyed-in-the-wool Gator. Anybody here a Gator? Anybody? Say, go Gators? Let me hear it. Go Gators. Go Gators. Okay. Anybody here a Seminole? Oh. I have a daughter who's a Seminole, so I forgive you. So I went to the University of Florida, and I met my wonderful husband there. And I graduated from the University of Florida and went on to teach Spanish for a while. And then my husband was finishing up his internship in New Orleans, and I lived there and worked there for a while at Ochsner Clinic. And then he went into the military. It was in the 60s. It was during the Vietnam era. And we moved to Hagerstown. We moved to Maryland, where he was stationed, and I taught Spanish there. And then we went on. He went to Vietnam, and I came back to the University of Florida and started working on my master's in Latin American history. Then I wound up, when he came home from Vietnam, he did a residency in Florida at Shands Teaching Hospital. And then we moved to Stewart back in 1971. And I've lived here on the Treasure Coast ever since. And I taught at Martin County High School for a while. And then eventually really took over as business manager for my husband's OBGYN practice and got very involved in healthcare and do a lot of healthcare policy as well as healthcare administration, and wound up starting a mammogram center for women, and also got very involved in health information technology. So I was kind of became a little bit of a techie. I love computers. Anybody here like computers? Oh yeah, I love computers. So I started out in one direction and wound up in another direction, and that will happen to you. And you never know where life will take you. So you may start out doing one thing and many years later doing something very, very different. But you have to be open to those opportunities and take advantage of them when they happen. Then I ran for public office, and I have won some and I've lost some elections. But you never give up. And I was elected to the Florida House of Representatives in 2000 and have been very involved in politics and in government since then. I was termed out in 2008 and then was elected again in 2010. So I've served in the House now a total of 12 years and have been very involved. And what really got me so interested in running for political office was because I had 4 kids in the public school system. And I was called the squeaky wheel mom. Anybody got a squeaky wheel mom? A mom who's always there, making a little trouble, making sure you do it right. Yeah. And telling you what you need, that you need to learn and you need to study. Right. And also maybe standing up for you and making sure that you're on the right track. I was a squeaky wheel mom, and I got very involved in education and in helping school board members and in making sure we had the right school policy. And that's really what got me very involved in deciding to run for political office and run for the Florida House of Representatives. So I have made education a real part of my agenda in the Florida House. Also being involved the last 20 years in healthcare and being a founding board member of Hibiscus Children's Center, I've been very involved in healthcare issues and in child welfare issues. So that has been a real area I have concentrated on and been chairman of many committees dealing with healthcare and health and human services in the Florida House of Representatives. So that's a little bit about me, a little bit of history as to who I am, how I got here, and I'd like to open it up to some of those wonderful questions you all have been thinking about. Question?
What qualifications do you have to be a leader in the community?
The question is, what qualifications do I have to be a leader in the community? Well, I think one of the things that is so important in being a leader in the community is really being true to yourself and knowing who you are and being true to yourself, listening to the people of the community and knowing the needs of the community. If you know that, if you know who you are and you talk to people and you learn what their needs are, you can put them first and you can really help inspire other people to do what they need to do to help. And it doesn't take one person, it takes a lot of people working together. A leader is the person who helps other people lead. And that's not easy sometimes. And it doesn't mean that you're the one with the best clothes, the one who is the loudest, the one who is out there making the most noise. It's the one who inspires other people. And that's the quality that makes a leader. Yes?
What do you want to be remembered for?
What do I want to be remembered for? Well, I think what I want to be remembered for the most is being a good mom. I get a little teary when I think about my grandkids. You all are the future. The kids of this country are the future. And moms are very important. So all of you young ladies grow up to be good moms. And all you young men grow up to be good dads. It takes a family to build our country. So remember, each one of you, as you grow up and you go out there, it's that family unit that's going to make the biggest difference in this country, in your lives, and in your children's lives. So no matter where you are, no matter where you go to live after here, whatever your education is, whatever you pursue, it's that family that's going to build the future. So work together and keep those values, those family values that are so important. And I think that's the most important thing. Next question.
Representative Harold, do you think it would be okay if the student held the microphone and was able to stand up?
Yes. Okay, who's got the next one? Next question? Okay. Here.
What does what does leadership mean to you?
The question is, what does leadership mean to me? I think leadership is a variety, a number of things. I think, first of all, a leader has to inspire other people. That is absolutely key. You have to be able, as a leader, you have to be able to bring people together and motivate them and inspire them, because it's not the leader that really is The leader is the catalyst that helps other people rise to the level of achievement, rise to the level of education, rise to meet the need. So it's the inspiration that a leader can provide that is very important. It is also the learning that that leader has that can impart and help others learn. And teachers are great leaders. They help you learn. They help inspire you. So your teachers are really your role models right now that will help you become true leaders. One of my favorite quotes is from John F. Kennedy, who is one of my heroes. And he really said that leadership and learning are indispensable to each other. That you cannot be a leader unless you are constantly learning. So what you're doing here in Northport Middle School is so important to your future and your leadership skills that you're going to develop. So I think learning is very much a part, and being open to learning is very much a part of becoming a true leader. And another thing that I think is very important in developing leadership skills is really being persistent. If anything, I am the poster child for perseverance. Never give up. Okay? Never give up. You have got to continue to strive. And yes, you may not succeed at first. But if you continue to work, and if you continue to learn, and if you continue to really look at what you need to do and work very hard at it, you can become a true leader. You can achieve whatever you want to do. And we are so blessed to live in this country where we have those opportunities, where you can come to a beautiful school like this, where you have wonderful teachers, and you have the opportunity to learn. So don't let others push you out of that. Continue to do that. And if you don't succeed at first, if that math test was just so hard and you didn't get that A on it that you really wanted, you know what you have to do? You have to continue to study. You have to get somebody to help you. You have to go and say, I am never giving up. I may hate math, but I am never giving up. I'm not going to let that get the best of me. I'm going to achieve. I'm going to make sure I learn how to do that. So never give up. I'm a terrible athlete. I mean, back in my day, girls didn't do that, Girls didn't play sports. Now, today, we have so many girls who play sports. I think it's such an important thing. But when I grew up, you didn't do that. There was no girls' teams out there. And I was always the original klutz. I couldn't walk and chew gum at the same time. I was an absolute klutz. But I decided at one point that I wanted to learn how to play tennis. And I was terrible. How many of you play tennis? Anybody play tennis? Okay. Do we have any athletes here? Okay. Terrific. So I wanted to learn how to play tennis. So I decided I was going to take some lessons. And I was awful. But you know what? I kept taking some lessons. And I kept practicing. And I kept working at it. And I never gave up. Now, I never went to any major tournaments or played, competitively or anything of that sort, but I had a lot of fun playing tennis. And it's because I learned, I never gave up. So whatever you want to pursue, and it may not be something you know right now, when you make up your mind that that is something you really want to do, there are things that you can do along the way that will help you achieve that. And you're going to have bumps in the road. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to not do well sometimes, but you never give up. When I ran for office, and my first time I ran for office in 1992, and I ran for the Florida House of Representatives, and I lost by 800 votes. And I was so sad. But I never gave up. I continued to work, continued to be involved in my community, and then I was elected in 2000. So continuing down a path, getting through the disappointment, getting through the obstacles, and continuing to work towards a goal, you can achieve it. And in this country, we have amazing opportunities that children in other countries don't have. You have a wonderful school, you have a wonderful community to live in, and each and every one of you can achieve your dreams. Next question.
How difficult is it being a female in your job?
Okay. Now I'm going to talk to the girls. Alrighty? And boys, I'll let you listen too, okay? But I want to give a little message to girls. Sometimes it's very hard, even today in the 21st century, for a girl, a woman, to achieve. Historically, our leaders have been men. Or the leaders, no, let me say that differently. Historically, the leaders who have been recognized, who are in books and have been recognized, are men. So as a woman, it's only really in the last 100 years that we have had the vote, that we have had the ability to run for public office, and that we have had the ability to be public leaders. Women have always been leaders. They have just not been recognized as leaders. And I want to tell you a little story. When I was in college at the University of Florida, my dad was an attorney, and he had been in the Air Force, and then we moved to Sarasota, and he was very strict. He was a colonel in the Air Force, and he was very strict. If you think you have a strict dad, you should have met my dad. And he also was very frugal, and he didn't want to spend money on anything that was fun, or what I considered fun. I was going to school, to the University of Florida, and I'm the first female in my generation, in my family history, to graduate from college. So women, historically didn't go to college. So I was the first one in my family as a woman. My father, of course, was a lawyer. He went to college and law school. But my mother always wanted to graduate, to go to college. She had 1 year of college, and she was very disappointed that during the Depression, she had to stop school and go to work. So it was very important for me to get an education and to go to the University of Florida. But I also wanted to have a little fun. And fun wasn't necessarily on my father's agenda. For me in college, I was there to study, So I decided I wanted to join a sorority. And a sorority is kind of like a club. And it's a club that you live in this house together with a bunch of girls, and you help each other and you work together. And it's a lot of fun, and it's a really good learning experience. So I wanted to join a sorority, but that cost a lot of money to do, and it wasn't in the budget. And my dad I had a budget, and I had to spend just a certain amount of money. So being pretty resourceful, and that's part of being a leader, is being resourceful, I decided, well, I could do this. I can get a part-time job while I'm there and help and pay for my sorority dues and my living in the sorority house. So I did that, and because my dad was a lawyer, and I at that point thought I might want to be a lawyer, an attorney, I decided to get a job. I looked in the postings, and this is before the internet, this is before computers, and you had to go down to the student union, and they would post all the jobs that were available for students on the wall. So I went down and found a job listing at the law library. Among other jobs, there was one there, and I said, I'm thinking about being a lawyer. I'm going to go for that job. So I filled out the application, and I sent them a resume, and I got an interview, and I was so excited to get the interview. Now you have to remember this is 1961. This is before there were many women lawyers, okay? In fact, there were essentially no women lawyers. I went and applied for the job, and I went into the law library, and I had an appointment to meet the librarian. And as you walk into the law library at the University of Florida back then, you went into two big double doors, kind of like this, but even bigger. And I walked in, and there were all these library tables, just like you have here, but they're the room was 4 times the size of this room. And all these library tables, and there are all these guys sitting at these tables studying. I walk in, and all of a sudden one of them looks up, and he starts shuffling his feet and pounding the table. And pretty soon, there are 80 guys pounding the table and shuffling their feet. What would you do? What would you do? I turned around and walked out. I said, oh my goodness, what is going on here? I walked out, and the librarian heard the noise, and she came out and met me in the hallway. And she said, oh, you must be Gail Bauer. You're here for the interview. And I said, yes, I'm here for an interview to work at the reserve desk, but my goodness, what is going on here? And she said, oh, that's the law school shuffle. Anytime a woman, a female, walks into the library, the men do that until she leaves because they don't want any females in the library. But, she said, once they see you behind the reserve desk, they won't do that to you anymore. You just become part of the furniture, and you just work here. So then you're okay. But if you want to go to law school, they will give you a very hard time. And she was a female librarian. So it was very difficult back then for women to go to law school. But you know what? We've come a long way, baby. Today, yes. Today, more than 50% of law students in this country, in the state of Florida, at the University of Florida, where they used to shuffle you out the door, are now women. So you can do it, girls. And in fact, I never did become a lawyer, but you know what I do today? I make the laws. Again, what it takes is perseverance. And those women who went to law school back in the 60s had a hard time, but they persevered. They worked very hard. And you can overcome so much if you put your mind to it, if you work very, very hard. And they had to achieve much higher standards than someone else, than a young man, because they were not accepted. But by hard work, they did it. And today, we now have women on the Supreme Court of this state. We have women on the Supreme Court of the United States. And more than 50% of the law students are women. So you can do that, every single one of you girls. And you know what, guys? You need to help them, too. And we all need to work together because everyone needs to achieve their best. And it's only when we look at ourselves and each other as individuals, not as boys, not as girls, but value each and every person, that you will all be successful. And your success will help someone else achieve too. So if you succeed and you help others succeed, our whole country will be a better place. And your children will be better for it too. Next question.
How do you feel about being a leader?
Well, how do I feel about being a leader? It's hard work. It is hard work. And you know what? It can be fun too. But mostly, if you want to be a leader, it's hard work. It doesn't come easily. It takes constant work. It takes a lot of perseverance. And mostly, it takes listening to other people and being part of a community, having that empathy for the community. And it takes listening and being very much attuned to the community and who and what you want to achieve. It also takes knowing where you want to go and having a vision. You need to have in your mind, you need to know who you are and make sure that you always know who you are and you have a vision for the future and you can inspire others. So being a leader is not easy. And it changes, you know, but it's also a lot of fun. I get to come talk to you kids. If you think I'm a leader, I get to talk to you kids and be part of your class today. So it can be a lot of fun as well. But the one thing you can't let it do is let it go to your head and think you're something special. I've lost some elections, believe me, and you know you're nothing special when you lose an election. And you have to be humble. You can't think that you know it all. You have to be able to listen and to learn. So it can be a real high when you win. It can be a real low if you lose. But you learn from your losses as well. So it's constantly a learning experience as well. And it gets to be fun, too, occasionally. So I like coming to talk to kids and being here. You got any more?
Have you made any decisions that have had a negative impact on your community?
Have I made any decisions that have had a negative impact on my community? You know, when you are a leader and you put yourself out there and you run especially for public office, you make decisions that people agree with and people disagree with. Just like when you make a decision that's going to, and you have a group of friends, and you decide to go one way, and your friends are going another way, they're going to disagree with you, and they may say that's a negative impact. So, yes, I have made decisions that other people have thought had a negative impact on my community, and perhaps they have, but they were made with the intent of doing something right for our community. You always have critics out there, people who are not happy for whatever reason with whatever you do. And there are many people who will criticize each and every one of you. But you have to stay true to yourself and true to your core beliefs. So if decisions I made had a negative impact, it certainly was not intentional. There may be people who view it that way, but every decision I have always made as an elected official has been because I felt it was the right decision to make. Circumstances may change, and you may find out later that perhaps it was not the right decision, but when you make that decision, you need to be convinced in your mind that it is the right decision and you're making it for the right reason. You know, right now we have a constitutional amendment out there dealing with medical marijuana. And there are people who want to legalize marijuana in the state of Florida. And I have been on a big crusade my entire career in public office against drugs, especially when it comes to kids. And kids get involved, they get lured into that drug mentality, whether it's starting with cigarettes or starting with alcohol. And marijuana is one of the primary gateway drugs that can lure you down a very bad, destructive path. And there are people who are trying to essentially legalize it now in Florida and make it very much, and they're using the excuse that this is medical marijuana. And I have fought that very hard in the Florida legislature. And there are a lot of people who disagree with me on that. And they will say, well, this will help and benefit people because it's going to make this, quote, medicine available. And I don't believe that. I think this is opening the door to legalized marijuana. So people disagree with me on that. And until I see the science that's going to prove to me that marijuana has a beneficial medicinal effect, I will fight that bill. I will fight legalization. Now, 10 years down the road, if they do the scientific studies that show that there is some medicinal benefit to marijuana, and it is used as a medicine, truly, not a legalized substance that makes people high, but is used as a medicine, I will have been wrong. And and some people would say that you made your bad decision had a negative impact on some people's health. I will still disagree because until there is science that proves that there is medicinal benefit, that it is going to help people, I will fight that every step of the way. It is, to me, a very destructive substance, and this amendment that's out there is going to really legalize it in the state of Florida. So you make decisions based on the knowledge you have for the best interest of the people. And that's what I've always put first when I look at issues. Yes?
What was the difficult part in your career?
What was the most difficult part of my career? Oh my, that's hard. What was the most difficult part? Well, I think the most difficult part is when you have to really weigh very important decisions and you don't have all the facts. I think that's probably the most difficult time, is when you don't know enough information. And because I'm a lawmaker, I have to vote, and my vote has an impact. And I have to vote on whether that law is going to pass or it's not going to pass. And the most difficult time and to make that decision is when I don't have adequate information. So I try and really learn as much as possible about the subject before I come to a decision. And I bring together a variety of people with different opinions. Because if you don't listen to people on both sides of an issue and learn from them and see why they feel one way and someone else feels another way, and listen to them and analyze. Use those critical thinking skills that you are developing right now in school. And that's the most important thing you're learning is critical thinking, to really analyze behind the issue what is going on. So that's the most difficult thing, is not having enough knowledge to make the good, right decision. And I encourage each and every one of you boys and girls, as you are learning and as you are going forward and deciding what you want to do, make sure you do all the research. Make sure you learn as much as possible before you make those critical decisions.
I teach programs in the classroom such as Too Good for Drugs and Too Good for Violence. I want to backtrack to what you were just saying, making a good decision, medical marijuana, etc. We discuss peer pressure a lot, and the students understand that everybody has fears. You have fears, I have fears, they have fears. How have you faced peer pressure in your profession? How do you deal with it?
Yes. Peer pressure, and certainly you are now at the age as middle school students where perhaps for the first time you are really feeling that peer pressure. Everybody has that t-shirt. Everybody has those Nike shoes. I want Nike shoes too. Everybody has that new iPhone. The iPhone 6 just came out. And I may bend to a little peer pressure and buy one. But, because I believe it's a good phone. But peer pressure exists. And you now, at your age, are probably really starting to feel it. How many of you have had someone say, let's do something, or let's go somewhere, and you really think maybe your mom or your dad might not think that's such a good idea, but you go ahead and do it because everybody's doing it. Anybody do that sometimes? Yeah. It's hard. It's hard to stand up. And you know, when you're in public office, sometimes there's peer pressure. And I can tell you, on this fight for medical marijuana, there was extreme peer pressure this last session among legislators to pass the medical marijuana, the Charlotte's Web bill, that allows the use of low THC content marijuana for very specific uses. And I truly believe that there is not the science behind it. And I've worked in the medical field the last 20 years. And I firmly believe in the scientific method and using science to prove things. And there was tremendous peer pressure. I was one of 7 legislators who voted no. I stood up for what I believed. And I get a lot of peer pressure from the public. I get a lot of peer pressure from my own legislators. But I listened to the experts. I heard, and my heart goes out to those moms and dads who have children with epilepsy who came and brought their children to my office. And I saw them. I talked with those moms and dads, and I understood their passion in order to get some medicine that they thought would work to help their kid. But at the end of the day, the evidence was not there. The science is not there. And I had to say no. I had to say I cannot vote for that. And I was one of 7 in the legislature to vote against it. But you have to be true to yourself and your core beliefs. And that's the most important thing that you can do as you face peer pressure. And it may not be popular. It may get you in trouble occasionally. But if you know it's right, and if you're true to yourself and what you believe, you need to stand up. And it's hard. It's hard, but you need to do it. Yes.
What is your position on the public education?
My position on public education. Well, first of all, I love kids, and I want every kid to be successful. And to me, the most important thing you can do as kids is get the very best education you can get. That's going to help you in the future more than anything, is making sure you study hard, you work hard in school, and you get the very best education. So as an elected official, my goal is to really assure that you get the very best education. And as a former teacher, I can tell you the most important element of that public education is a good teacher, an excellent teacher in the classroom. That's where education takes place, is in the classroom. So I really want to make sure that we have the best educational system in the state of Florida, in the country. And that means setting high standards. It means making you work very hard and having tough teachers, but teachers who expect a lot out of you and teach you well, and being well trained and knowing how to teach you and knowing their subject matter really well and having those high standards and helping you achieve that. So the public education system is very, very important to me. And every kid learns differently. I have a grandson who's dyslexic, and every kid learns differently. So our teachers need to have the tools to teach children differently. And kids who do have problems, who do have learning disabilities, or do have situations that make it difficult for them, the public school system needs to accommodate them and to make sure that we have the facilities and the tools to assist them in learning their special way. So I am absolutely committed to making sure we have the very best educational system in the entire country. And Florida is doing a great job in changing things. In the last 15 years, our graduation rates have increased tremendously. Our fourth graders, for instance, we have just raised the bar and we're doing so much better than we used to. Our fourth graders are excelling and are among the best in the country in reading and math. Our Hispanic and African American student achievement rates have risen tremendously over the last 10 years. So we are on the right track. And I am absolutely committed to making sure that the state of Florida continues that path. And we've had some very difficult budget years in the past and had to really look at how we spend our money, and we had a real downfall in our economy. And just like your moms and dads had to make tough choices in your families as to money, we had to make tough choices on the state level as to how we spent our money. And unfortunately, we had to cut back some money from education. We cut over $7 billion out of the total budget of $70 billion over the last few years. We're now on a better standing. Our economy is better and we have more money. So now we're putting more money back into education. But we need to fund education adequately. Absolutely. We need to make sure we have the very best teachers in the classroom. And we need to keep raising the bar, because you kids are going to be competing not just against your peers in this room or in St. Lucie County or in Florida or in the United States. You're going to be competing for jobs with people around the world. So we need to make sure you have the very best education and you can go out and become good, productive citizens, have wonderful families, and raise the next generation after you, because I want to have some great-grandkids too one day. So you guys are the future of this country. Your education is the key to your success, and we want to make sure you are very successful. So education is very important to me, very, very important. More questions? You guys have all kinds of questions.
Who is your example of a great leader?
Okay, well, I have lots of examples. Lots and lots. Well, politically, probably my example of a great leader in the political realm, my political hero, first political hero, is Abraham Lincoln. He was the poster child for perseverance. He lost lots of elections, too, before he was ever elected to the U.S. Congress and eventually became President of the United States. And he made tremendous difference in this country. So probably he's my number one political hero. Ronald Reagan is a hero of mine also in a more current generation of political leaders. I really admire his ability to communicate and his ability to really inspire. I think a leader must do that. And he is a political leader that I look up to very, very much. And a more current leader who really, who is somewhat controversial, that I really look to, who really has made a tremendous difference, and who is an out-of-the-box thinker. And I think as a political leader, you have to sometimes be an out-of-the-box thinker, and that was Newt Gingrich. And I think some of his forethinking is absolutely amazing and critical. So on the political realm, that is really who I think is who I look up to as leaders and who I would want to pattern my life after as a political leader. And as a person, my mom was my best leader. Next question.
How do you help your community?
How do I help my community? Well, I have been very involved over many, many years in our community. And I think the one thing I want to impress upon you kids is it's never too early to get involved in your community and to help your community. Do we have anybody here who is a Boy Scout or a Girl Scout or who's involved in Big Brothers, Big Sisters, or Boys and Girls Club and do projects and things of that sort? Yes. Okay. How many of you have ever done any kind of civic project or helped clean up the school or do something like that? Okay. You can start even in elementary school and to be involved in your community and to help your community, because it truly takes each and every one of us working together in our communities to really make sure that we have the very best community out there and that we can be successful. And it takes successful people working together in a community to really change a dynamic. So I got involved when I was a kid many, many moons ago. I started out as a Girl Scout and got involved in my community. And then as I grew up, when I was in high school, I got involved in a lot of clubs in high school that helped our communities. So when you go out, I don't know if there are any clubs here in the school that do community projects. Are there? No. Okay. When you get to high school, there will be different clubs that you can get involved in that help in the community. I was a member of, back then they separated the boys and the girls. We had the Key Club and the Keyettes. Now they just do Key Club. And they get involved in a club in your high school that helps your community. So starting with small projects, and I know Boy Scouts and Brownies and Cub Scouts all do community projects, but get involved in some kind of organized group. In college, I was very involved in my sorority and in community projects that our sorority did and other student government. I was Secretary of Student Government at the University of Florida and very involved in projects that student government did to help our community. And then when I moved to Stewart in 1971, I really got involved in a whole lot of different community endeavors. And I'm a founding board member of Hibiscus Children's Center, which is a home for abused and neglected children. And we started that back in the 80s, and there was no place for children who are being abused and neglected to go. And children were taken out of this area and sent to Miami or sent to Daytona or sent to Orlando. And we wanted to have a shelter for those children right here in our community. And we started that back in the 80s. And I also was involved for many years with Helping People Succeed. And that is an organization that helps individuals who have developmental disabilities. And I had a niece who was born with spina bifida. And I was very close to that organization because they were helping kids, especially kids who had developmental disabilities. So I've been involved in lots of community activities over the many years. Now I'm a board member of Big Brothers Big Sisters right here in St. Lucie County. And we do mentoring, and we do help in our schools and reading and mentoring students. And if anybody is interested in would like to have a big brother or a big sister to kind of be an advisor for them, it's a very, very good program. And it can help kids who really have no one at home who can help them or kind of advise them and needs a little extra help. So Big Brothers Big Sisters is a wonderful organization that really helps kids. So most of the time I've been involved in organizations that help kids. And I think that because it's the future. You are the future. And we want to make sure we give you every single opportunity. I was also involved in the Barn Theater for many years. My kids all loved to be in plays and loved to sing, and I started the children's program at the Barn Theater many, many years ago. And then as my kids grew up, I was a band parent and helped raise money for the band and did those kinds of things. And our youngest daughter was involved in Opus. She was a singer, so we helped her along and helped with Opus. So, it depends on what's going on in your life as to what kinds of activities and community involvement you may choose to be involved in. But the bottom line is be involved in your community. Work together so that you can build a better community for everyone. It's only through your commitment and your involvement that happens.
Can you comment on how the Veterans Hospital in Port St. Lucie will impact our community?
The Veterans Hospital, well, it's a veterans nursing home. It's not a hospital. I am so excited. I was in Tallahassee on Tuesday, and the cabinet of Florida, which is made up of the governor of Florida, the attorney general, the chief financial officer, and the commissioner of agriculture. And these are pretty important people. They are very important people. And they made the final decision on Tuesday to give St. Lucie County the 7th nursing home for veterans. And it's a very, very important thing for St. Lucie County. We have so many veterans who live here on the Treasure Coast, and we had no nursing home all the way from Miami to Daytona Beach that would serve all these wonderful veterans who have done so much for our country, who have given of themselves, of their lives, of given all their energy to help and protect our country. And as they get older and they have problems and they get sick, they need nursing homes. And they would have to go to Miami or Daytona Beach to live in a nursing home if they needed it. And then it would be very hard for their families to go see them. And one of the most important things for people in nursing homes is to have their family come see them. So we worked very hard, and the county commission and the legislative delegation worked very, very hard to get that nursing home here in St. Lucie County. So all the veterans now on the entire Treasure Coast will have a place right here in tradition in St. Lucie County, and it's very, very important. It'll probably take about 2 years for it to get built, but in the next 2 years, we are going to have that nursing home for them right here on the Treasure Coast. It's very, very important. Thank you for asking that. Do we have more questions? Over here? What, we have a young lady over there first. Oh, okay. We'll get you next, okay?
What is your goal in your career?
What is the goal? What is the goal of my career? Well, I've had several careers, and I'm kind of ancient, you know, I'm old. So, and you all will change your careers many, many times. It's been estimated that most people, when they graduate from college, will have at least 5 different jobs before they retire. So each career may have a different career goal. When I was a teacher, my goal as a teacher was to be the very best teacher I could be, to impart the most knowledge and have students learn the most. As a healthcare professional, as owning a mammogram center, and as running a medical office, my goal was to give the very best service and health care to our patients. So your goal is geared to what you want to achieve and what your vision is for the people that you are serving. As a state legislator, my goal is to make sure that the state of Florida is the best it can be. And we have laws in place that are going to enable the citizens of the state of Florida to achieve whatever they want to achieve in the very best manner. And I think that's done by keeping, and this is a little political, by keeping taxes low, by empowering people to make their own way and decisions, and to allow businesses to flourish, to make sure that we have the very best educational system there to grow our state, and to make sure that we have a safe state, that our public safety system works, and that you are safe in your homes, that you're safe on the street, and that our kids are safe and protected, and our most vulnerable, our senior citizens, are safe and protected and have the health care that they need. So your goals kind of change in your career as to what you want to achieve depending on where you are and what you want to do. So I think that, you know, for career goals, I think it's going to evolve. But the most important goal, I think, is what you want to achieve as a person. And I think that is to give back to others. We have another question. You have one.
List some of your qualities as a leader.
Some of my qualities as a leader, let me talk about leadership qualities. And I think I've talked somewhat about this. But I think certainly one of the most important leadership qualities is knowing who you are, knowing what you believe, having that core sense of yourself and what you want to achieve. You then have to be able to inspire others, because you may have your own path and your own road, and unless you have somebody coming with you, you're one person. You're not a leader. You are going down your own road. So to bring others along with you and be a leader and have people with you You have to inspire them to your vision and help them understand your vision, share your vision, because people will not follow you unless they share your vision. So you have to be able to articulate that vision. You have to listen to them and make sure that they are part of your vision. They understand your vision, and you understand them as well. And sometimes that vision may change slightly as you listen to more people. I think you have got to be persistent. I've talked about that. And unless you are persistent in what you do, and you continue, you know where you're going, you inspire people to join you, and you are persistent in what you do, you cannot be a leader. So it also takes listening to other people. You can't be a leader by yourself. You have got to have other people and listen to them, incorporate their vision into your vision. So leaders don't march a path alone. You're only a leader if you have someone with you, and that takes working together, cooperation, and being part of a team. You can't do it all yourself. You've got to be part of a team, and those team members have to be and feel that they are valuable parts of that team. Yes.
That'll be the last question.
Okay.
Thank you so much for being here. Boys and girls, you are a wonderful, wonderful first summit for us here at Northport K-8 School. Your questions were terrific and on point. You did a beautiful job. And the representative, she gave you answers that you wouldn't have been able to get any other place. Let's give her another big round of Northport applause.
I want to thank each and every one of you kids. Let me tell you, you are phenomenal. You paid attention. Nobody threw spitballs. No, I didn't see too much gum chewing out there. And you all were a phenomenal audience. I want to commend you and commend your teachers as well. You are terrific. Thank you for being who you are.
Boys and girls, this goes right along with your history fair, which is Leaders and Legacies this year. And we have learned from a very wonderful leader, and she talked all about her legacy, right? Thank you very much. Thank you for attending the first Leadership Summit here at Northport K-8 School. Please remain seated.